In the vast Southwest, among the shifting sands and pines of canyonlands, there is a name spoken only in half-light, a name uttered in fearful hush as one pulls tight the blankets or checks the locks again at midnight. That name is Skinwalker. A Skinwalker is no ghost, no simple monster picked from a child's nightmare. They are witches, sorcerers who turned from the path of healing and community to the darkest arts. To become a Skinwalker, lore holds, one must commit unspeakable deeds, betray the sacred bonds of family, often by killing a close kin, to gain shapeshifting power. Once bound to evil, the Skinwalker becomes something else entirely. They may walk as human, or shift into any animal, coyote, wolf, bear, dog, sometimes even an unnatural hybrid. They move between forms, between worlds, slipping through the boundary of what we call real. But more than shape and stealth, what truly marks them is their intent. For many stories, the Skinwalker is not a guardian or a protector, but a predator of souls, a corrupter of trust. They come at night, when the world is vulnerable, when eyes are heavy and hearts slow. They whisper just beneath the breath. They mimic what is familiar until invitation or mistake allows them inside. To speak the name Skinwalker is itself taboo. Among the Navajo and their neighbors, it is believed that uttering the name invites attention. The stories survive in quiet voices, in circles under firelight, never in boast or spectacle. It is why so few truly know the weight behind the name. Yet for over half a century, the legend escaped its remote roots and crept into modern headlines, into nights where unseen eyes watched from forests or mesas, and into the nightmares of those who glimpsed something not meant to be seen. To understand why the Skinwalker myth refuses to die, one must not only look to ancient tale, but to a place whose story is haunted by decades of reports. A place whose land seems to resist explanation. Skinwalker Ranch lies deep in Utah's Uinta Basin, a stretch of high desert, mesas, and sage-covered hills where the horizon shimmers under endless sun. For generations, local ranchers spoke in whispers of strange lights in the sky, mutilated cattle found without blood, packs of large animals with eyes that glowed red, impervious to bullets, shadows moving even when no wind stirred the grass. In the 1990s, after a change of ownership, a family that settled the land reported a barrage of unexplained events, disembodied voices, objects thrown inside the house, dogs howling at shapes no one saw, orbs of light drifting across the pastures, and animals dying with organs removed surgically without a drop of blood on the ground. Those stories, born from fear, curiosity, and desperation, caught the attention of a man few expected, a billionaire skeptic turned investigator who bought the ranch in 2016 and opened the gates to science, surveillance, and media cameras. It became, as many now call it, the most scientifically studied paranormal hotspot on the planet. Yet still, it resisted science. Still, it defied every attempt to pin evidence with certainty. The lights flickered, the cameras failed, the night held its breath. And somewhere, in that silence and static, the shadow of the Skinwalker lingered. Though the ranch holds the largest cluster of strange reports, the legend of the Skinwalker stretches across the American Southwest and beyond, embedded in remote highways, small towns, lonely gas stations, open deserts, forests, and forgotten roads. I present here 3 of the most chilling and commonly cited encounters, each different, each terrifying, each impossible to forget. 1. The Uinta Basin, night vision, the ranch sighting. It was late one summer evening when a family decades ago settled into the old ranch house on the Uinta Basin property. The sky above glowed pink and golden as the sun dipped behind distant mesas, and their dogs, restless, stared into the darkness beyond the fence line. No wind stirred, yet the hairs on the back of their necks stood straight. They heard it first in the barn, the faint shifting of hooves, not quite matching any animal they owned. A soft thud, a scrape, a silence. One of the older children stepped toward the barn door, flashlight trembling in hand. When the light flicked on, the beam cut through dust motes and settled on nothing. But movement lingered in the corner of the barn. Something crouched, something too tall, something that did not move like any creature they knew. In the next hour, every light on the property blinked out. Power lines sparked though the storm had already passed. Radios crackled with static but no broadcast. Overhead, the sky rippled, first like heat haze, then as if a membrane between worlds had thinned, briefly rippling across the stars. When the lights returned, the creature was gone. The barns were empty, the dogs silent, the air heavy with cold. Cattle were found hours later, mutilated in precise, bloodless fashion. Wounds clean, organs removed with surgical precision. No tracks, no footprints, no blood, just emptiness and fear, and that story alone might have stayed buried. But it was not the only one. Over the ensuing decades, dozens of ranch hands, neighbors, night watchers, hunters, occasional visitors, all reported similar experiences. Orbs dancing beyond fences, wolf-like creatures tracking headlights across the basins, electromagnetic anomalies that fried cameras and caused illness in people. agpropertyscotland.com. +3. Wikipedia. What sets this encounter apart is not only the breadth of reports, but the strange consistency. No matter who told it, skeptic or believer, the accounts shared a common texture. Silence before the event, a distortion of light or reality, animals acting weird, then vanishing with no trace. For many investigators, this has become the standard model for a ranch-era skinwalker sighting, because nothing else seems to fit as well. 2. The strange visitor on a remote road, the highway encounter. In a small town on the edge of the reservation, 2 college students were driving home late at night after visiting friends. The highway was empty, the moon hidden behind rolling clouds, the air thick with the promise of rain. Their car radio crackled and died, then flickered back to life for just a moment before cutting out for good. Then, in the beam of their headlights, they saw something on the road standing still. A dog at first, a large, shaggy dog, its eyes reflecting bright white light. The passengers slowed, peering through the windshield. The creature raised its head, and for a heartbeat the reflection was gone. The eyes went dark. The shimmer changed, then it shifted, not like a dog shifting stance, but like liquid changing shape, edges flickering and distorting in the light, resolving into something taller, something not dog, something human-sized, but wrong. The shape stepped onto the road, moving slowly, not running, not limping, just drifting. The driver slammed the brakes, heart hammering, mind screaming. His friend froze, wide-eyed. The car radio exploded in static again, louder, like a scream into the night. A high-pitched keening filled the air. The creature tilted its head, lifted what looked like a human hand, flicking it as if beckoning or warning. The students didn't wait. They sped off, tires screeching on wet pavement. Behind them, in the rear-view mirror, the road was empty. No dog, no wolf, no thing, only the empty, dark stretch of highway. When they reached the next town, their car's lights flickered again, then died for good. The engine sputtered. For hours they pushed it down the highway, until a gas station in a distant town offered help. What struck them most was not shock or fear. It was the lingering dread. The sense that something watched them. Something that could slip into human form at will. They never spoke of the encounter again until much later. Once the story escaped into the shadows of internet forums, dozens responded with similar experiences. Strange animals on roads, shape-shifting shadows at dusk, flickers of white eyes that vanished when confronted. No evidence remained, no photograph, no broken glass or skid marks. Just memory, and the silent echo of something that should not exist. 3. The desert research trip. The investigators' encounter. In 2012, a small independent paranormal team ventured to the borderlands of Arizona and New Mexico. Desert scrub, wide mesas, nights cold enough to bite. Their mission, to film, record, and document any unusual activity attributed to skinwalkers in the region. To try to capture on camera what so many had described only in trembling whispers. They set up cameras in a clearing, ringed by juniper and sage, the horizon open to stars and silence. For 3 nights nothing happened. Wind, the scratch of rodents in brush, maybe owls calling, maybe nothing. Then on the 4th night, the air changed. The breeze died. Crickets stopped chirping. The world seemed to hold its breath. At 2:13 a.m., one of the trail cameras, rigged with infrared and motion detectors, triggered. The monitors in the van flicked on. On screen, a figure standing just beyond the circle of light cast by the infrared lamp. Tall, lean, its outline rough, shifting, its eyes dark, absorbing, not reflecting, not shining. The figure didn't move for several seconds. Then it shifted, not a step, but a ripple, as if the air around it bent for a fraction of a second. And then it vanished. The infrared footage didn't show a second figure. No blur, no heat signature. Just static. Outside, wind stirred. In the distance, a coyote howled, but it was distant, as if real life had reasserted itself only after the watching ended. The team rushed out. No footprints in the dirt. No disturbed brush. The earth was untouched, as though nothing had been there. The cameras showed only empty desert, the sky silent and black. One of the investigators, a woman with years of field experience, swore she felt eyes on her as she walked to the van. She later described coldness crawling over her skin, the brush at the edge of her vision, moving just beyond recognition, a sense that she was not alone, that something had stepped with her, unseen. In the morning, nothing remained but the sense of violation, the imprint of fear, and a memory burned into the grainy monochrome of infrared video. The evidence, fractal and ghost-like, refused easy explanation. To this day, the footage circulates among believer circles. To skeptics, it's digital noise. To those who watched it late at night, it remains a wound that never heals. Why do so many stories of skinwalkers carry the same chilling rhythm? Why does the fear feel universal, even when the encounter is personal and unique? Because the skinwalker embodies something older than horror. They are the betrayal of trust, the inversion of innocence, the monster wearing a familiar face. First, there is the uncertainty. Are you really seeing what you think you see? A wolf crossing the road, or a man with the eyes of night? A stray dog in the yard, or something shifting between flesh and memory? Skinwalkers exploit indecision, light and darkness, memory and perception. They blur boundaries, human and animal, self and other, trust and fear. Then there is the silence. In every account, from ranch to highway to desert, the world grows still before the horror strikes. Wind dies, animals hush, the hum of electricity fades. Silence becomes thick, alive. It is as if the land itself holds its breath, waiting. That silence is part of the trap. It primes the senses, deadens the distractions, until the shadow can move without warning. Finally, there is the invitation. Few stories describe force. More often they describe hesitation. A door cracked open, a car window rolled down, a moment of compassion or disbelief. The skinwalker does not barge in. It asks, or pretends to ask. It waits for consent, or for someone to become soft in the dim light. Once invited, boundaries blur. Once consent is given, even unknowingly, horror ensues. These three threads, uncertainty, silence, invitation, weave through every tale. They give the skinwalker a power no mere predator can match. Because you can't fight what you aren't sure is real. You can't lock out a shadow that already walked in before you realized the door was open. Skeptics argue that skinwalker stories are misunderstandings, illusions born from fear and isolation, misidentified animals, hallucinations, or folklore run wild. Perhaps sometimes they are right. Night drives, tired minds, flickers of light. Reality can bend under pressure. But what of those cases where evidence seems to defy explanation? Where infrared cameras show shapes that vanish into nothing, where cattle are found mutilated without blood, where dogs howl at emptiness, then go silent, as if hearing something beyond human hearing. The land holds too many consistent reports, too many patterns, too many stories that cross decades and borders and cultures. In recent years, the property in Utah, once known simply as ranch land, became a focus for science and surveillance. Researchers, engineers, UFO investigators, paranormal teams, all converged on Skinwalker Ranch. They filmed, they monitored, they scanned. They recorded electromagnetic anomalies, strange lights, and mysterious phenomena that sometimes coincided with animal mutilations or sightings of large, wolf-like creatures. Still, the skeptics point to natural explanations, perhaps predators, perhaps human interference, perhaps coincidence. But for believers, the silence of the proof, the failure of cameras, the timing of anomalies, all speak more loudly than any single witness. The ranch remains locked, surveilled, studied, yet the episodes keep coming. That tension between folklore and modern evidence, between myth and data, is what gives the Skinwalker its strength. It refuses to belong to any one paradigm. It lives in the cracks of belief, in the spaces between skepticism and dread, in the quiet corners no light reaches. If you ever drive across the Uinta Basin at dusk, or walk the lonely trails of the high desert, or find yourself drawn into the dark hours between midnight and dawn, remember this: the land is older than your fear, and much darker than your eyes. If you see a wolf at the edge of the road, its eyes too bright, too fixed, do not slow down. If a stray dog stands on the gravel as you drive past, and its eyes absorb the light of your headlights, do not roll down your window. If the cricket stops suddenly, the wind dies, the brush goes still. Listen not only with your ears, but with your gut. Do not invite curiosity to cross the threshold, because fear, once curious, becomes memory. Silence, once invited, becomes a presence. And a shadow once seen may never leave. The Skinwalker does not attack like a beast in the open. It lingers, it waits, it moves through trust, through hesitation, through that single moment when a good person makes a choice with a kind heart, or a wandering mind. That is the moment the boundary breaks. So stay in the light, stay with friends, keep fire near, keep the doors locked. And when the wind dies and the desert goes quiet, remember, some names are whispered for a reason. Some legends survive to warn, because somewhere on this land, under this wide sky, the Skinwalker watches, patient, hungry, waiting.